For 5,000 years, gold ruled the world, until a black liquid took its throne. This is the story of the most valuable resource on Earth, how it built empires, toppled kings, and fueled wars. From ancient treasure vaults to modern drilling rigs. But how did a fuel once thrown away become worth more than gold? For most of history, gold was power itself. Empires measured their strength by the metal in their vaults. Gold financed armies, temples, and entire civilizations. It never rusted, never faded, and everyone wanted it. Then came a revolution built not on metal, but on machines. Steam engines roared to life, hungry for coal and endless fuel. Factories spread across nations, transforming quiet towns into industrial hubs. But coal was heavy, dirty, and hard to move across vast distances. Then a new liquid fuel emerged, lighter and far more powerful. In 1859, the first oil well was drilled in Pennsylvania. Oil gushed from the ground, and a new era quietly began. At first, oil lit lamps and replaced expensive whale oil. Then came the automobile, and everything changed forever. Cars needed gasoline, and demand for oil exploded overnight. Suddenly, oil was no longer waste, but liquid gold. John D. Rockefeller saw the future and seized it with ruthless ambition. His Standard Oil Company swallowed rivals and controlled nearly all refining. By 1900, Rockefeller had become the richest man in the world. Oil wealth rivaled the treasure of ancient kings and emperors. Then discovery spread beyond America to distant deserts and seas. In the Middle East, vast reserves lay hidden beneath the sand. European powers raced to claim these untapped fields of black gold. Oil began to reshape borders, alliances, and the fate of nations. When war came, oil decided who would win and who would fall. Navies switched from coal to oil, gaining speed and deadly range. Tanks rolled across battlefields, powered entirely by refined petroleum. Airplanes took to the skies, burning fuel that no coal could match. Generals learned that armies without oil simply could not move. By 1918, victory belonged to those who controlled the flow of fuel. After the war, oil demand surged as the world rebuilt and modernized. Pipelines stretched for thousands of miles across continents. Giant tankers carried black gold across every ocean on Earth. Nations that owned oil suddenly held immense global power. The Middle East transformed from empty desert into a treasure of energy. Kingdoms grew rich overnight as oil money poured into the sands. In 1960, oil-producing nations united to form a powerful alliance called OPEC. Together, they controlled prices and challenged the giant Western oil companies. For the first time, producing countries dictated terms to the industrial world. In 1973, war in the Middle East triggered a sudden and shocking oil embargo. Overnight, gas stations ran dry and long lines stretched down every street. Prices quadrupled, and the fragile modern economy trembled with fear. The world finally understood how deeply it depended on a single resource. Nations scrambled to secure supplies, and oil became a weapon of diplomacy. Whoever controlled the taps could bring even superpowers to their knees. Oil had become more than fuel. It was now the true currency of power. By the 1980s, new oil fields opened far beyond the Middle East. The North Sea gave Europe its own supply of precious crude. Alaska's frozen wilderness hid rivers of oil beneath the ice. Engineers built pipelines across permafrost to reach distant ports. With more sources, prices fell and consumers breathed relief. But cheap oil brought a new danger: careless overconsumption. Then disaster struck when giant tankers spilled their deadly cargo. Oil-soaked coastlines revealed the hidden cost of black gold. The world began to question the true price of its addiction. Yet demand kept rising as new giants like China awoke. In 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait, seizing some of the richest oil fields on Earth. The world reacted instantly, fearing one nation might control too much crude. A coalition of nations went to war to protect the vital flow of oil. Retreating armies set hundreds of wells ablaze, blackening the desert sky. The burning fields showed how oil could turn from treasure into weapon of ruin. As new markets opened, oil traders in glass towers ruled with a single click. Prices now swung wildly on rumor, war, and the mood of distant markets. Every economy on Earth felt each rise and fall in the price of a barrel. Deep beneath the oceans, engineers drilled where no one had dared before. Floating rigs reached miles below the waves to tap hidden reserves. In deserts far from the sea, vast fields of shale held oil once thought impossible to reach. A new technique called fracking cracked the rock and unlocked a hidden flood of crude. America, once dependent on imports, suddenly surged toward energy independence. The shale boom shook global markets and loosened the grip of old oil giants. But this new bounty raised fears of poisoned water and trembling ground. As climate warnings grew louder, the world questioned oil's endless reign. Wind turbines and solar farms rose as rivals to the age of black gold. Electric cars appeared on city streets, silent challengers to the gasoline engine. Nations pledged to cut emissions, imagining a future beyond the barrel. Yet factories, ships, and planes still ran on oil, binding the world to it. Beneath the surface, oil remained woven into countless products we rarely notice. Plastics, fertilizers, and medicines all traced their origins back to crude. Even the clothes people wore held threads spun from petroleum. This hidden dependence made leaving oil far harder than many imagined. Meanwhile, oil-rich nations began planning for a world after the barrel. Gulf states poured their wealth into cities, tourism, and new industries. They knew the age of easy riches would not last forever. Some invested in solar power, turning sunlight into their next fortune. The very lands built on oil now raced to reinvent themselves. Around the globe, engineers searched for fuels to replace the old giant. In 1974, a secret pact reshaped the world's money and oil forever. America promised Saudi Arabia protection and weapons in exchange for one thing: every barrel of Saudi oil would be sold only in US dollars. The world needed oil, so the world now needed dollars to buy it. This petrodollar tied every nation's economy to American currency. For 50 years, the dollar reigned as the true king of energy. But now, rival nations trade oil in other currencies, breaking the old rule. China, Russia, and others quietly build a world beyond the dollar. The invisible deal that ruled the modern world is slowly unraveling. Gold gave way to oil, and oil to the dollar, now that empire trembles,